listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast. Let me say that again. Three, two, one. Hello, listeners and readers of Awards Watch. This is, oh my God. I haven't done podcasting in like 2 weeks. This is crazy. Okay. Three, two, one. Hello, listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 306. I'm your executive editor, Ryan McQuade, and joining me today is our associate editor, Sophia Ciminello.
Hi, Ryan.
Oh my God. It's weird to see you virtually
I
because
know.
we've been around each other way too much over the last 2 weeks, it feels like.
Yes.
We've been
way
in a
too
car.
much.
We've been, planes have gone by. We've been in Ubers. We've been in theaters. We've seen movies. We were at Telluride the last time you guys all heard us. We were with the group. And then Sophia and I and Eric got in a car and we drove from Montrose to Denver. And you went home for a little bit. And then I went home for like 5 seconds. And then we both went to the Toronto International Film Festival, which is crazy.
So much traveling, planes, trains, and automobiles for me, complete with a diversion to Wichita, just like in that movie. But thankfully, everything went well with both trips. And it was really interesting to do TIFF right after Telluride. This was my first year going to the Toronto International Film Festival. So it was kind of a culture shock for me. Totally different festival than Telluride, of course, but also just it's fun, I think, to just compare all of the festivals and see. I mean, they all have their own unique flavors and ways of doing things, but I had a nice time overall. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I hadn't done this in 2 years. I feel like this was really the first time I got to do TIFF because the last time I went to TIFF was during the strikes and people didn't want to take their films there and talent couldn't go and a lot of people didn't want to go. And there were some interesting films there that ended up breaking through in the Oscar race and in some of my favorite films of the year. That was where The Boy and the Heron premiered. And I was there opening night, and it really didn't get much better after that screening. But yes, so TIFF, this robust lineup, though, it's a complete opposite, like you said, total 180 from Telluride, which is very intimate. And people are in jeans and people are, walking around on the streets with the celebrities and you feel at one with the nature and it's very peaceful. And then you go to downtown Toronto on King Street and it is fucking chaos from left to right. Trains and Ubers and streets are blocked off and there's a Criterion bus and you're on lack of sleep and lack of coffee. But you're seeing upwards of, for some people, 5 to 6 movies a day. We don't do that because we're healthy. But you can't.
Everyone has their own way of doing a film festival. I'll say my way is usually really
enjoy it?
I like taking some breaks in between movies and writing, checking out the city. Honestly, like in one of the complexes where they have a lot of the theaters, the Lightbox, there are just some great little shops in there. Like the gift shop is really great.
They have a great
really
gift
nice
shop.
bar, nice bar where I got a lot of writing done. So yeah, I like, especially for my first time at a festival, really spending some time in the city too. It had been a long time since I'd been to Toronto, so I wanted to also enjoy that a little bit too.
Yeah, I went to some good places to eat. We had a really great meal at this Thai restaurant that was right there on King Street. That was pretty good. And then, I went out to, did you ever get to go out to Vinegar Syndrome and get out there to
No,
it?
I didn't. I wanted to. I'm going to save that for next trip though,
Yeah.
when I have a little bit more time.
Really cool stuff out there. And so, but we're not here to talk about the city. We're not we're not a travel podcast. But I will ask Sophia one question right up at the top is that we spent a lot of the time, honestly, at press screenings at the Scotiabank. And so got to ask, from Telluride to Toronto, how's the popcorn situation? Do you think it's a little bit better there at Toronto for the Scotiabank? Because it was pretty good.
I'm going to say something. I think that the Scotiabank Theater has the best popcorn I've maybe ever had. It's
so
high up there.
It's very high quality.
It is so good. It is buttery without having extra butter, which I don't like on my popcorn. It's really salty, but not in the overly salted Regal popcorn way.
Mhm.
It doesn't have as many like tiny little small pieces as the AMC popcorn, which I also think is really good. I do love the Film Forum popcorn for any New Yorkers listening.
Mm.
That's a really good one. Alamo has great popcorn, but Scotiabank, top notch.
Well,
Great popcorn.
I'm anti butter on popcorn.
Hmm.
I can't do it. Like the just something in the consistency. Like if I want watery, mushy, nasty kernels of popcorn, like
Hmm.
sometimes people like it like a soup, and I just can't do it. The consistency doesn't work for me. They
Hmm.
had truly the most flavorful, unsalted, like unbuttered popcorn I've had, and it's so
It was
crunchy.
so good. I love
Yeah.
crunchy popcorn
Mm.
too, when like those the
Little
kernels
burnt
are
ends. Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
popped all the way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Little crunch. Anyway, yeah, we shared some popcorns along the ways with these screenings, but we did watch a ton of movies,
Hmm.
and we saw some very big titles, and we're going to talk about a little bit of the Oscar chances here in a couple minutes. But I just want to throw it to Sophia. You saw a lot of films. I saw a lot of films. I think I saw like 25 titles. I think you saw somewhere roughly around the 20 range, maybe 15 to 20 range at the festival. What were some of the highlights for you from the festival? Just like a title or two that really stuck out for you.
Yeah, I can go a lot of different directions with this, but I'm gonna start with the obvious, which is that going to see a Knives Out premiere at Toronto is just a really fun experience, and I'm glad I got to have that with Wake Up Dead Man. I think this is such a new style of Knives Out movie for Rian Johnson, and I really enjoyed it. I think that it takes a bit of a different approach from the first two films, so from Knives Out and from Glass Onion. And it really feels a bit more focused, I think, on Josh O'Connor's character. He does play a hot priest who has had a bit of a violent past, so he's trying to reform that a little bit. So it's between his character and Daniel Craig's character, Benoit Blanc. So it's very focused on them, I think, despite having a large ensemble who they're all great, but it feels a little bit more focused on the two of them at points. But it feels a lot darker. It has this Edgar Allan Poe feel to it, which I really, really enjoyed. This is going to be a great fall release. And I have to sing the praises of one of my favorite actresses, Glenn Close, because I think she is absolutely fabulous in this movie. I think this is a great supporting role for her. And she just knows exactly how to, I think, conjure up the right tone of this film. And it's really nice. I think if you're familiar with her work and, everything from, the dramatic classics like Dangerous Liaisons to something like Deliverance last year to really everything in between, it's a really, really good, I think, like distillation of everything that she's done in her career. So it's a great performance. It's kind of like how I feel about Denzel in Remember the Titans, which is like, what is this performance doing in this movie? I think it is that great. And yeah, I had so much fun with it, and I can't wait to see it again with my family come Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the film as well. I have my review up on the website. I thought it's one of the best films of the festival, and that it's also the best Knives Out that we've gotten. It's very dark. Ryan Johnson kind of came out and sort of explained the influences for this, which is Edgar Allan Poe,
Hmm.
taking us back to church, which is in the roots of a mystery who done it, and there's so much darkness to it, and actually it's a really great reflection of what's going on in our world right now. The division, the use of power and religion and words, and how they can be spread in a hateful way and also terrify those around them. And I think Josh O'Connor's incredible in this film.
Hmm.
Shock. We love a Josh O'Connor performance, but
There's nothing he can't do,
there's
really.
nothing he really can't do. I think Josh Brolin's really good opposite him as this sort of foiled priest that's kind of taking over the town. I agree with you on Glenn Close. most of the rest of the cast kind of get like their one scene or two, but it's really focused on Josh O'Connor, which is different. And I think a lot of, Knives Out fans are going to probably be like, well, there's a giant ensemble here, but it's really not as focused primarily on the ensemble this time as it is really on one character and the relationship with Benoit Blanc, which I think we get a lot of Daniel Craig in this one more than we
Hmm.
did in Glass Onion. And there's just a lot of fun that Daniel Craig can have with that character. There's a lot more insight little nuggets of details we get about Benoit Blanc and his taste. I just had an absolute thrill, and yeah, seeing this with a crowd in the Princess of Wales Theater, which is such a big theater, and we saw a couple of
Hmm.
films there. They ate it up, and
Yeah.
and rightfully so. And this movie comes out in theaters late around the Thanksgiving time period, and then early in December it'll release on Netflix, much like the last one. I think people are really going to love it. I don't know exactly if it's because Netflix has so many films where it's going to fit
Hmm.
into it. I don't believe that it will get that lone adapted screenplay nomination like the last two have, unless things
Hmm.
start falling off. I mean, it's really tough. They've got a lot to push this year. You know.
They do have a lot to push, but one of the interesting things I think with Netflix's contenders is, and we see this every year when they have a lot of films, they rise and fall. I think the interest in those contenders can really change around quite a bit throughout the year. And one of the things that's always been pretty consistent for Netflix has been that Knives Out, and Glass Onion, those adapted screenplay nominations, getting those. So I think, I don't know, with adapted screenplay for me this year, that's a category where it's like one battle after another is really strong. Hamnet feels really strong. And then we're not really sure, right, what else is there.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, this movie will have a better reception, I think, in some ways than Frankenstein when it
Hmm.
comes down to the writing. And I also do think that in this supporting actress field, that Glenn Close has a really good chance of getting in.
Yeah, she's definitely in if you had a lineup of 10, she's definitely there. Though we've done this over the last couple of years too, where Janelle Monáe and Anna de Armas and Chris Evans, like they were run for their respective films here as well. And I think de Armas and Craig, they got Golden Globe nominations, but that was as far and extent as they could. But you're right, Sophia, we're in like a world right now where that supporting actress category is so thin that it's really tough to see so many contenders blooming from as these films are starting to fall off. I mean, we talked a lot about Frankenstein and Jake Kelly and some of those titles last week, so we don't really need to get into too much of those. But
Hmm.
I don't know if I really saw a lot of supporting actress contenders at TIFF. And so Glenn Close being an actress that's very well acclaimed and also used to getting nominations, and for even lesser films, right? Because she got in as in Hellbilly Elegy, for Christ's sake. Then she could totally get into this race. The thing I'm just saying is that focus at the first film, they got that in because it was a box office success. Netflix's nomination for Glass Onion was because the rest of their titles started to fall apart into pieces early on. So you are right about that. Like Bardo and I forgot what the other film they had that just did not hit that year. Jake Kelly will do really good in New York. Frankenstein had a better outing here. People liked
Hmm.
it more. It was probably a better crowd to see it than Telluride, that's for sure. And then there's House of Dynamite that they have, and they have this. So they have a huge slate of films, and
Yeah.
we don't know. They might be out there at the TIFF market trying to pick something up.
Well, and they also have Train Dreams,
And they have
which
Train Dreams. Yeah,
premiered, that played very well at
yeah.
TIFF. And that could be one of those like sleeper contenders for them in their slate that maybe people, they might not be as passionate about some of the big players. That one, we could always see that have some pickup. I still need to see it, but
Mhm.
everything I've heard about it has been really wonderful.
Well, I did see it, and I can talk about it. I think it's just a beautiful, elegant film. And I mean, this is Clint and Gregor, these two filmmakers that just got nominated for an Oscar for Sing Sing. And and got into that category. And this is an adapted screenplay, based off a novel, and it's very beautiful, very elegant. If you've seen Jockey, you know the type of filmmaking you're going to get here as well too.
Mhm.
Joel Edgerton's incredible in this movie. A darker, like a dark sort of horse contender for best actor, I think, which is a stat category within itself this year. But just a beautiful, elegant film. The score for this movie is incredible. The sound work is sneakily, just some of the best you're going to hear of the year. And the Felicity Jones, Carrie Condon, William H. Macy, they all have things to do. I don't think that they're necessarily like the big Oscar players that people were expecting them out of Sundance to be. That's maybe like Sundance hyperbole. I think that this is all just a showcase for Joel Edgerton and this direction and how steady and confident it is. It's really this just great depiction of this fictionalized man and his road to recovering from grief and trauma that's happened to him. And yeah, I mean, like its Hall could be adapted screenplay Joel Edgerton and an original song. Like that's in
Mm.
score. And that's like really it. I don't see it getting into picture because for as many people that did love it, there were people that, didn't find the pacing to be up to their, to a Knives Out standard or to other
Okay.
films
Well,
that they've had. So it is more, I think, of their prestige film. And I think it is a contender that moves up because this is back-to-back festivals that Ballad of a Small Player played like an absolute dud. And so we don't have
yeah.
to go to the burger shop this year, which is really great. But it is it is
In and Out is closed.
it's close. It's in and out of the competition very quick. I think Netflix
Hmm.
kind of knew that. So those are really just kind of a catch up from that. And we will at New York when we talk about and preview New York next week. We'll preview House of Dynamite, which did really well at Venice, and we can talk about those Venice winners also here in a little bit as well too. Was there another title that
Oh my
Sophia that
gosh.
you really
There
loved?
are a
I
few.
I think that there is one big one that we can talk about, and it involves an actress contender. Uh,
Yes, yes. One of my favorite films from the festival is The Testament of Anne Lee. So this is Mona Fastvold's film. She co-wrote it with Brady Corbet, who she also co-wrote The Brutalist with. And a lot of people, I think, from Venice seeing this were calling this The Brutalist for girls. And it does have some similarities. I would say you have your titular figure making their way to America, um, and starting a movement there. So there's a little bit of that too, but I think this film I just really vibed with and connected with from the moment it started. I think the photography is absolutely gorgeous from William Rexer. And it is a musical, but it might not be the type of musical you're thinking of. And when I say that, it's really looking at, okay, this woman, Anne Lee, she founded the Shakers and the Shaker movement. And when you think about that, sect within Christianity, there's a lot of movement, a lot of sounds and movements that come from members when they're worshiping. And that really goes into the song and dance of this musical, which I thought was very cool. And it also has, I think the direction here is pretty amazing. I am very particular about musicals and specifically how choreography is captured. And this is some of the best blocking and direction when it comes to capturing dancing that I've seen in a while. I really just was pretty floored by it, and especially Amanda Seyfried's performance. I think she really goes for it and is pretty great. So I hope that she can get in. It doesn't have a distributor yet as of recording, so curious who will get it and who will run that campaign. But I think she's pretty fantastic, and yeah, I loved it. It's going to be one that I don't know, not everyone connects with. I think the response there was a little bit divisive, but all the people who loved it, we connected on it right away after the screening.
I was more in the middle on it. There are some. I mean, I might have been pre-hyped too much about the fact that it's like the second coming of the brutalist from this team, and as much as I love the brutalist, I don't. I think that this is a completely different film from that. I think that
Totally different. Yeah.
and I think that Fast Forward as a filmmaker runs in a different style than her partner Corbet in terms of how they like to approach certain subject matters. And I just found it like a little bit more conventional than I thought it usually
What?
was. I know that sounds crazy.
It's so unconventional,
I
I
found it.
thought.
I found the storytelling devices to be very conventional. I mean, the narration. I wanted more. I wanted, I think, a little bit more, maybe ambiguity. I didn't appreciate the narration by Thomas and McKenzie, and maybe it was just Thomas and McKenzie delivering it was the problem. But I wanted a little bit less tell and rather just show, and I wanted to be in that world. And it's crazy from a filmmaking, team that made The Brutalist and didn't have to do narration, didn't really hold your hand through that film. You really have to kind of dive into it and really go into the muck of Laszlo Toff's journey. And for this one, it felt like I've explained a lot more, and I think that that's the style, the approach from the person behind the camera ultimately. But you cannot deny Amanda Seyfried's performance in this film. She is incredible in this movie. There are sequences that she is just bearing it all and giving it 110%. The musical sequences, I kind of wish there were a little bit more because I enjoyed them so much. Even though like some of them are stronger than others, like the Lewis Pullman one. He wasn't the most effective singer, but emotionality wise, it was, he was, I think, delivering a really good performance alongside her. A film that I kind of want to see again, so then I know exactly what I'm getting into. Also did not help that like 20 minutes into our screening, the 70 millimeter print just went dead.
Yeah, it just
And then when
broke.
they had to switch to the DCP, which is very funny because then I've heard from everybody else they got to see the full 70 millimeter print the entire way through, which is like good for them. But it was a little jarring to just like have to restart a whole scene from scratch and kind of pick back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whoever picks this up has an instant Best Actress contender. I don't know if they have a picture contender. They have some crafts and definitely like costumes and song and score, but she's entered the race alongside Renata and obviously Jesse Buckley as well here too. But
Yeah.
no, I really enjoyed that film. I saw a film that
Really quick,
oh
one
yeah,
comment on the voiceover because
okay.
I like the voiceover and I usually don't like voiceover in films,
And
but
you're not a
I
big
think
Thomas and McKenzie person either, right?
well, and I
Like
thought that I didn't like Last Night in Soho, which is,
yeah, yeah.
Edgar Wright is Edgar wrong usually to me.
There you go.
I liked the voiceover a lot here because I think it actually added this element of her as this religious leader, as verging on a cult leader, and how followers talk about their leaders
Hmm.
when they're alive and when they're dead. And that to me of giving this perspective of, oh, I'm narrating her life or I'm showing you, and it's in bits and pieces of the film. It's not really, all the time, but when you do get the voiceover, it feels like you are tapping into the mind of a person who is affected by that
Hmm.
person's leadership. And I thought that was a really cool choice.
Okay.
So I'm pro voiceover here.
Okay. I'm usually like, it depends on voiceover. I'm not like a very anti voiceover person. It
Hmm.
just, for some reason, I don't know, it didn't connect with me on this screening. Maybe it will once I see it again, whenever that
Hmm.
is. I saw a film that you will see in New York, but it was one of the buzzier titles out of Venice, and it was definitely one of the buzzier titles here out of TIFF, and that is Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice.
Hmm.
Uh, Maybe the hottest ticket at the press lines
It
this year.
seems like it.
It was, I showed up an hour and 15 minutes before, and there was four lines already inside the zigzag that were already full. So just to tell everybody out there, when you line up in the press and industry screenings, and we have separate ones, there's public screenings, and then there's press and industry screenings, so that we can see the films ahead of time, for review coverage and whatnot. It doesn't happen for every film. Sometimes the press and industry screenings are the day after the premiere, like for Knives Out, but or Frankenstein, but they sometimes run before, earlier in the festival, for titles that are going to premiere later that night. And No Other Choice was a big title. and at the time we were thinking after the buzz of Venice that this would be a film that could potentially go on to win the Golden Lion. Alexander Payne had some other choices that he decided to make, but this was a big buzzy title. It was also running up against a lesser buzzy title, but with starring a buzzy actress in Sydney Sweeney, and I don't think anybody really wanted to go to Christie, at least at that moment. And there were very limited screenings of No Other Choice, so it was see this or see it in New York or see it somewhere else. I was able to see it. It's fantastic. It's Park Chan-wook back in sicko mode after Decision to Leave, back to his more stylistic approaches and genre approaches. It's very darkly funny, very comedic. The comparisons to Parasite are, I guess, fair because of subject matter and it's about class, but it really is Park Chan-wook doing his own version of class warfare and doing it in a directorial way, Sophia, that will blow your mind. Like if you thought
Okay.
some of the camera decisions that he's doing in Decision to Leave were impressive, this thing has camera movements that are some of the best I've seen all year. Period. End of story. It is incredibly confident filmmaking that sort of slow builds to this ridiculous ending that only you can buy into because it's Park Chan-wook. And I think that I would love to see him finally get his flowers. Neon has an enormous slate of films.
Yeah.
And I think we can talk about that here, which is that they had an enormous slate of films. This was so buzzy. They had their other four titles with Sentimental Value, Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, and Sarat all have their premieres here as well. A lot of buzz for Neon.
hmm
I know for me personally, I know you heard some buzz about some of their titles. I think that No Other Choice might have been the most buzzy of all of them because it was newer. But of the
hmm
titles that we saw at Cannes, it seemed like It Was Just an Accident was the one that really took hold here, while Sentimental Value and Secret Agent had stronger Tellurides. I feel like It Was Just an Accident, based off the people I was talking to, was the one of the Neon titles that really hit hard. And I
hmm
would not be surprised if that places in the audience award in one of the top three slots because people were really affected by the film's ending.
I think also Jafar Panahi being there, just like in Telluride, it's a very moving thing to see him
Yeah.
alongside this film, knowing what he has been through, knowing what it took to make this movie. I think that really stands out. I heard a lot of positive buzz about Sentimental Value and The Secret Agent too, just to confirm again that they have a really strong slate of contenders. I didn't really hear much about Surat.
No.
That one feels kind of like it's drifting away a little bit. That always felt a little bit more niche, like it
Hmm.
might not work its way in. But I think right now, for me, like when I look at Neon Slate, even though No Other Choice played very, very well, and I cannot wait to see it in New York, I think people are really still talking a lot about the Cannes titles, those three, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, and It Was Just an Accident. The thing with No Other Choice that is unfortunate, I think, is that because Alexander Payne, I'm just going to say him, I mean his jury too, but because they didn't award this film,
Yeah.
Neon doesn't really have as much incentive necessarily to really push
Mm.
it in the
Mm.
race in the same way that they do these award winners from Cannes.
Hmm.
Park Chan-wook, I mean, he's an incredible director, an absolute master. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah. I think you're gonna
But
really dig it.
I'm sure I will. But the idea of, him even he missed how we were all like, how did he miss director for Decision to Leave, or how did that not get into international feature, right? That was the bigger surprise. But without an award to go along with it, without best director, without winning the Golden Lion, I'm afraid it will kind of fall behind for Neon and fall down a little bit in their priorities list.
Does it help it move back up in your mind if it wins the audience award here?
Oh, yeah. I think if it wins an audience prize,
Hmm.
I think they can maybe play with it a little bit. But then, even still, I don't know. It'll be curious to see what wins the audience award.
It will be. I think we'll transition to that here in a second.
Yeah.
But I want to say is that like I know everybody. I actually heard some people push back on Secret Agent
Hmm.
and at here, and I think people were still. I think went like it was just an accident. Sentimental value. Secret Agent was how I would rank them in terms of what I heard of praise to then to then more negative vibes, and that's what I heard from Secret Agent was just like it's long, it's this and this and this. Neon has in their own trailer marketed this as their most awarded film of the year so far. They are going to push this movie, whether people kind of like that or not. Like they know what they have with this, and I think they know what the industry is going to respond to with this film. And sentimental value, I think they know that's a lock. Like they have that sort of in the bag, and it really is about what is the number two thing that they could also carry with them. And
Hmm.
it is about, do you go with the stylized film that's been celebrated by international people in
Hmm.
Secret Agent, or do you go with the narrative and the story, which is Jafar Panahi in the Palm, or is it just a world? So, or do you go if no other choice wins? Do you go with the seasoned veteran that's finally getting his due, or is it just sentimental value and that's really it? Which it's starting to kind of feel like that because those other films are breaking apart from the undeniableness I think that sentimental value has. And I think that if that jury at Cannes had given sentimental value the palm, we really wouldn't be having a discussion about
Hmm.
these other titles because it would be kind of just locked up and done and we would be moving on. But it's very interesting because they have so many films.
Yeah.
And also it was just an accident. Is fighting for its life to get someone to submit it right now
Well,
for international feature, and that could be a very detrimental thing because it's fighting against Netflix's Nouvelle Vague, which happens. And then you and I had this conversation because I saw A Private Life with Jodie Foster finally. That feels like the film. It's a French production. It feels like that, when it feels like a portrait year where they're like, yeah, we're just gonna go with the French film, not the popular film, and
yeah.
uproot this whole thing for themselves there in
I
France because they're
mean,
weird.
it not being a selection yet for a country does complicate things a little bit,
Yeah,
right? When everything else, like we know Brazil is going head over heels for the secret agent.
they are.
We already know that.
They
We
have a release date and everything. They have basically
they're
all
ready
but
to
said
go.
they're ready to go. They've got it locked and loaded.
Hmm.
They're going up against sentimental value. They know what
Yep.
they're trying to do. You
And
know.
sentimental value already a selection
Yep.
for Norway. So it could be one of those things where it goes, one of two ways. Like we just don't see that movie translating if it's not selected,
Yeah.
or even if it is selected, it could just get international feature, maybe director. There are a couple of places where they could really embrace it, picture even.
Yeah.
Or we could see if it's not selected, what happened with Anatomy of a Fall,
I
right?
was going to
Where
ask is do you think
we
it's
get a little
struck?
bit more push if it's
Yeah.
not selected and people say, how did this happen? This is
Mm.
the Palme d'Or winner. This is one of the best films of the year.
Hmm.
Let's give it an award somewhere else.
Or because I don't know if it's as strong probably as a film in terms of accessibility as an Anatomy of a Fall because of the fact, and I hate using accessibility as a word, but like Anatomy of a Fall is a procedural. It's
Hmm.
it's in this is not this is an emotional journey through a filmmaker's essentially grieving and forgiveness of a country,
Hmm.
which is great. You're going to have him go out there and speak. I think if it starts to stumble, to your point, I think New York, I think the Los Angeles Film Critics Associations, I think the big critics,
I think so too.
prizes would have to start swinging its way, and it would
Yeah.
have to do like Anatomy of a Fall, where it just starts winning the
Hmm.
international critics prizes left and right in order to do that. If that's the case,
Yep.
that's where I see its path for that. If it stumbles and it's not selected, which it would be at this point absolutely ridiculous for a country not wanting to support this movie because it's so
Hmm.
undeniable. Like I think Jodie's very good in A Private Life. I think the movie's fine, but it is nowhere near the caliber of it was just an accident. And if France was smart, which they've proven not to be in the past, they should pick that movie up and run with it. Run with it. Because they have a winner on their hands,
Uh-huh.
potentially, you know?
Yeah. I do think though we could be talking about, and you and I talked about this offline, Jodie Foster in A Private Life as a sleeper Best Actress contender for Sony Pictures Classics.
I really do think that that is the case, and I think we can talk about two other Best Actress contenders here real quick,
Hmm.
alongside Jodie Foster, because we were talking about it last week about actresses starting to become a little thin, and but with that, I think opens up possibilities for other actresses to start to kind of weave their way into the conversation, because of the big contenders not having a lot of actress plays outside of Renata and Jessie Buckley. Jodie Foster was one of those. But we saw Hedda,
Hmm.
and I think Hedda and Tessa Thompson is definitely a contender into this. You wrote the review about it, Sophia. Just kind of give your thoughts on the film, but then Tessa's
Yeah.
chances in this race from Nia DaCosta's film.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things about Best Actress that I think is actually interesting is that earlier in the cycle, we were talking about like who's going to get in. It feels very much like we just have a few really solid people and then who knows how you can fill it out. But I have to say, the performances I've seen from the women in the actress category have impressed me, I think, and have really stood out compared to Best Actor, where some of them I just still don't quite buy, or they're kind of falling by the wayside, or I'm just not really sure. So I think we could be seeing actually a really cool Best Actress lineup this year with some great performances. And one of those is Tessa Thompson in Hedda. So Nia DaCosta's Hedda is actually a really cool spin on the Ibsen play. And what I loved about it so much is that it's super stylish and funny, and she does such a good job, I think, of creating this world that is so clearly inspired by the text, but is also really bending the rules of that text at every turn. And the biggest way that she does it really is that Hedda she's a queer woman, she's a queer character, and this idea of her, really actually loving women, but being married to a man because of her social standing and what she has to do at the time of her life and in that society really to survive, I thought was actually a really interesting wrinkle in it. Of course, also this plays with race, and Nia DaCosta is so good, I think, at tackling subjects like race, gender, sexuality in her films. And this to me felt the closest really to Littlewoods in a filmography that for her has, it's shown that sometimes she doesn't have control over the final product.
Yeah.
And here, I think we really felt her vision in her hand. And one of the really great ways that she also does this is she gender flips one of the characters.
Yes.
So we have Nina Haas here in a role that is traditionally a male role. We have Nina Haas, who is delivering, I think, a complete scene-stealing performance. I love this performance. What starts as, a bit more reserved, I think, kind of classical Nina Haas, then really, as she starts drinking, she stays at the party longer. This performance is fiery and loud in the best way possible. And I thought the back and forth between her and Tessa Thompson was just really great. Crafts were amazing all around, but I think with Best Actress, what's interesting here is that after The Hunt, MGM Amazon's other contender has not necessarily done so well. We can see
No.
what happens in New York, but it would be interesting, I think, TIFF was the right place to premiere Hedda, and I
Yes.
think it got a mostly positive response there and some good reviews. So I kind of wonder if MGM would actually maybe prioritize some of the crafts or even Tessa Thompson's performance if After the Hunt keeps tanking.
Well, and there is also the growing sentiment that we've known over the years where Luca's films have not done well within the Academy outside of Call Me by Your Name, and I think there is this, I wouldn't say anti-Luca, movement out there,
Hmm.
but there is an allergy to his style and his filmmaking and his films. And this has definitely the chickens have come home to roost, I think, a little bit with After the Hunt and that screenplay and the conversation that's already been around that and how that movie is going to premiere in New York. I don't know if that's necessarily going to have the recovery that,
Not there.
or have the warm reception that something like a Jay Kelly will after it stumbled at Venice and then had really great, acclaim at Telluride, and then have really great care probably in New York because that section of the world really loves Baumbach. Plus, this is such a movie about Hollywood and everything. I think Hedda's their strongest contender. I think Nina Haas is incredible in this movie. I think that this is she's almost unrecognizable, and she's this towering figure over Tessa Thompson, and yet they are going back and forth, and it's very thorny and prickly and in all the fun right ways. And what's so wonderful about this movie is to see that Nia DaCosta can direct something that isn't controlled by IP in a studio, over her back. I mean, her next film, unfortunately, will be the 28 years later sequel, but it's also Danny Boyle and Alex Garland specifically chose her and wanted her to do that, and it feels like that it was a better experience for her. That movie comes out in January, which could help Hedda, prospect, because that movie will do really well probably at the box office, just like this new one did, and will mostly be critically acclaimed because like the latest one was. Like, I know you really liked it, and I liked a lot of aspects of that film. But the crafts, Sean Bobbitt's cinematography really is incredible. The score is wonderful. The sort of blend of modern ideas inside this very old text is I think a kind of a stroke of genius for her, and felt for like Amazon, like this could be their Saltburn of the year, where it's very flashy and sexy and confident without any of the baggage that a Saltburn can have in terms of an Emerald Fennell discourse. Because we had that drop literally this past week, the Wuthering Heights trailer, and I think you and I have had enough people come up to us on the streets or tell us online how much they didn't like that. And so, which, I mean, we'll see. We'll talk about it next year in February.
Yeah.
But I think that Tessa Thompson, who is a movie star, and is
just
in
also absolutely beautiful.
I mean,
in
the
this movie.
costume
goes without
designs,
saying, but
I mean,
my
it goes
God.
without saying, but she's incredible here. I would love a world where she's in the lineup, and really doing well. I think that, to transition to another film that had its trailer released yesterday, everybody's favorite All-American Gene Girl, and Sydney Sweeney. Now, neither one of us were able to catch the film. I was not able to catch it. Mostly, it was a sort of a tepid response to this. But Black Bear Entertainment picked this up. They will be running this. She will be on the awards season, so we will. And I think it comes out in November, so we will be seeing Christy make the rounds. I can almost bet the farm that it will be at AFI. And Sophia and I will catch it there, and we will have our thoughts there about that film. But the two boxing movies, or MMA fighting films, this in the Smashing Machine, which was a winner from Venice, both of them had very tepid, mixed responses. Smashing Machine even more so.
That surprised me too.
Yeah,
with the Smashing Machine.
Because
The
we were
response
talking
seemed
about
all over the place.
Because we were talking about early on is like that could be an audience award winner, and they had the conversation with The Rock, and Minnie Safdie was there, and Emily Blunt, and you were not able to catch the film.
I'm seeing it next week,
and I
so
don't think
very
you need.
soon.
I don't think you need a rush to see it next week, because I think it is one of the more distant, cold biopics I've seen in such a long time. It shoots it at such a. The movie is shot as almost as like he is trying to recreate the documentary about Mark Kerr, and in doing so, all the emotionality that you should have in a movie like this is completely devoid and lost. And The Rock is mostly good in this film. The script limits him how much he can do, and he kind of plays the character very one note. The boxing sequences are actually pretty. Or the MMA fighting sequences, I guess, are very like kind of boring and uninspired, because they're all shot from either above or outside the ring. Nothing's internalized in the ring, which is very sad. It's like the camera is literally sitting there at the edge of the mat to watch this stuff unfold. Yeah, it's really frustrating. And then
I know podcasting is an audio format, but the faces I'm making, I'm just like,
she was really mad there. Yeah,
that's just strange. It's just not what I expected, I think. And
No.
with any kind of fighting movie, boxing movie, your brain goes to
Goes to
Raging
Raging Bull.
Bull,
Yeah.
or even something more commercial like Rocky. But those movies put you in the ring.
Well,
Like they
even
really are in there with
even a
you.
movie like I think that is the ultimate MMA movie, which is Warrior from 2011. I don't know if you've ever
Mhm.
have you seen
I
that
did
film?
see that.
And that
Yes.
is such a great film. To then watch this is such a complete opposite in terms of like just what you could do within that
Hmm.
style and really give you a kind of a history lesson. Like it doesn't really do that. It weirdly does this thing where it only focuses on 4 years of Mark Kern's life, not even before he's successful, but when he's towards the tail end of his career. It's like as if they did Springsteen Deliver Me for Nowhere for a guy that nobody fucking knows who is. Like this guy, he's not a very famous person outside of there. And so that's
Hmm.
an interesting thing to do, but it also this should be more conventional because you don't know who this person is. I don't care about this relationship, which is very between him and Emily Blunt, which is very toxic because of the fact that I don't know how they met. I don't know why they're together. The scenes are
Hmm.
very repetitive. They're basically like yelling at each other, and it gets violent between the two of them. And Emily Blunt is, if Eric and everybody had a problem with the way Emily Blunt was written and performed in Oppenheimer, then you should want to fire her agent after doing this movie. It is truly one of the most baffling decisions that like a high profile actress has made, if not to just serve
Hmm.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson in his performance, which is really
That's
sad. It's
disappointing.
very
Yeah.
disappointing because it's like even within the trappings of that character, it could have been something interesting. And the literal same scene happens 3 times in the film with her, and that's
Hmm.
really the extent of her presence and performance. It's a really
Huh.
it's one of the most rough characters written this season that I've
Oh
seen.
God.
And so I think that it's a if A24 was smart, they would start transitioning away from this movie as possible and set up their chips for Marty Supreme or something else. Like this the Venice win is a joke. Like I'm gonna just go out there and say it. The Benny Safdie winning Best Director at Venice is a Alexander Payne, not group consensus pick. Because we heard about Bigelow, we heard about Park, we heard about all these directors that did really great work, and a lot of those films seem like to be the films that, or even The Testament of Anne Lee, felt like movies that could have been that winner. Instead, it was this movie that, yeah, I got a 15-minute standing ovation, but it was not liked pretty much universally by the industry people and TIFF people and audience members that I saw. Like, not a lot of like, this is because you would have expected to see online
Hmm.
The Rock's winning the Oscar, all this stuff and everything.
Yeah.
I
I
think at this
think,
point it would be lucky just to get into makeup.
wow. I was going to ask you about that too. And I think one of the things with TIFF that you see is a lot of people, right, at TIFF, TIFF is the largest public film festival. People get, and, naturally, they get really wrapped up in the celebrity of it all.
Hmm.
Sorry. And who's there and if they're getting a tribute, anything like that. And so I think with something like this, like you said, with The Rock being there, with all this Oscar buzz, Benny Safdie coming off of the director win, I think I expected this festival to be very kind to this movie and to really cement The Rock as an Oscar contender. And I think there's still room for him because that makeup combination, the makeup and hairstyling nomination, Kazuhiro did the makeup here with acting is really, that's tried and true. We see that all the time. But yeah, I think I wasn't really expecting the response to this to be so really middling. So I am eager to see it though because
Hmm.
I gotta see for myself
Well, speaking
what's
of
going on here.
speaking of middling films, I think you can speak to one of them, and then I can speak to another one.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but because he's not here today.
Okay.
But our beloved editor in chief Eric Anderson in August decided to provide a little chaos into the Oscar race in his best director predictions and put a film from Paul Greengrass over a film from Paul Thomas Anderson. Now, we gave him a lot of shit at Telluride for this,
Mhm.
and we'll be giving him a lot of shit in the coming weeks as we talk about One Battle After Another. Sophia has seen the film. Eric has seen the
Mhm.
film. I have not seen this film. We will not be talking about One Battle until I see
Oh,
this film.
please,
I know, I
please.
know. We will talk about it when I see this film very soon. We will get to it. There's not going to be a conversation about that movie without my
Fair.
input. That's not. It wouldn't be fair to either one of us. If either one of us was in this position, we would not be doing so. And plus, we have a lot to build up towards with New York and everything. So we will talk about One Bow. We will give it its time in court properly.
There's never going to be enough
And
time.
there's not going to be enough time. And there's not
Hmm.
going to be enough time for us to say, I told you so. But anyway, Sophia, you saw the Greengrass film with me. You had a great, interesting experience watching that film. We were at the premiere of Apple TV Plus's The Lost Bus, which I think both of us kept calling The Last Bus throughout the festival as well too. It's a very confusing title because it literally is The Lost Bus and it's also The Last Bus, and they kept saying that throughout the film, which was driving me nuts. Anyway, and then I'll talk about Rental Family after your
Okay.
discussions here. But go ahead into the Greengrass film, and if you think Eric's right or not, to put that into his predictions.
Well, it's funny because a few people were doing that. So I won't give all of the, the shade to
To
Eric
Eric,
here. We also had,
but we don't have to follow
Vanity
the
Fair
mob.
was
You
doing
know what I
it
mean?
there. Yeah, I certainly didn't
Nope.
because Paul
Nope.
Paul Thomas Anderson is my Paul. Paul Greengrass is
Yeah.
not my Paul.
Yeah.
And that was proven true with The Lost Bus. So I did have a very interesting experience watching this movie, which was that I get to my seat, I sit down, I'm just like not really paying attention to what's going on around me. And then there's all of this like hullabaloo movement. And I'm like, what's going on? And I turn around and sitting behind me is Jamie Lee Curtis, who's a producer on the film. And she
She's all
is
of
a
us, by the
very
way.
Jamie Lee or all of us. She's a very active
You
participant
don't
in
say.
movie going, and I kind of loved that so much. I was really enjoying it, like during a lot of the
Is
emotional
she
scenes. I mean,
active
she was
or Activia?
very oh my God,
Yeah.
Activia. She was very, very moved by this movie. And I
Good for
good.
her.
I'm glad. There were actually quite a few people I think who were really emotionally moved by it. I thought though, for me, I mean the beginning of this film where when it's set up with Matthew McConaughey's character and his family, who, as you noted in your review, they are played by McConaughey's. So Kevin's mother is played by, that's his character's name, is played by Matthew McConaughey's real mother,
Wow.
and his son is played by his real son. And they do this thing where Paul Greengrass, we never really see Kevin's mother straight on. She's just framed from an angle, almost like she's like a woman who's waiting for her husband to come home from the war in a Hallmark movie. Like it's baffling. There
Yeah.
are these choices that are trying to make it feel so dramatic and so intense. And for me, that family drama at the beginning, it's just not set up in a way that makes you emotionally connect. I mean, this man truly has like the worst day of his life that you can possibly have. He has to put his dog down at the beginning too. It's like what one thing
It
after
felt like a
another.
country music song.
It did. It
Yeah.
that's a good way to describe it. I actually and then America Ferrera, she plays a teacher in the film, and it's really just, I think these characters they're really written in stereotypical ways,
Yeah.
really broad language and dialogue, and then the filmmaking itself, a lot of these scenes are really harrowing, but the camera is moving through this CGI fire in a way that reminded me of Ambulance, the Michael Bay movie,
Oh, that's an interesting thing. That's not where
where it
I.
almost feels like you're on a roller coaster. You're
Yeah.
just
Like a
like
Michael
in
Bay
this,
film.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And that to me was a huge emotional disconnect from what they're trying to build with the script, which is this like grounded tale of this person who
Yeah.
is an unlikely hero. So, yeah, I was very mixed on it.
See, I was kind of thinking that color. I know this is gonna sound. Just go with me on this.
Hmm.
Like it was like. Have you ever seen? You've seen the Evil Dead movies, right?
Yeah.
So you know how like Raimi uses a camera there for like the spirit to go to the Necronomicon
Hmm.
and to to the cabin. That's how I felt the wind was moving here at the beginning of the
Oh,
film. Because it's like it's the
sinister.
yeah, because it's the personification of evil. And
Hmm.
then, but then I also, anytime like the wind started moving in different directions, I couldn't stop thinking of M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening.
Mm.
And so I was thinking of like movies I would rather watch because like The Happening is a terrible movie, but it's also like hilarious and I it's a guilty pleasure. And then and so I was thinking about all those movies and I was just thinking about like how far Paul Greengrass has jumped off the ledge and how it's been like 20 years since he's delivered an actual good movie. And I'm not trying to once again throw Eric under the bus or anybody that predicted this, but we need to stop
The
predicting.
Lost Bus. You're throwing them under the Lost Bus.
Yeah, but I think this is the last bus we're ever going to put Paul Greengrass in predictions until he proves it that he actually delivered a good movie. Because News of the World, I was not a big fan of that. What was it, the mass shooting one that he had too, which was
Oh
like on Netflix
God.
that was really rough and very
Yeah.
bleak. The Jason Bourne fourth film that they did was rough, and then Green Zone is not very good either. He has not delivered the goods, and it feels like he's now weirdly a director for hire, which is crazy. And he's completely gone away from being this very good director of tense, thrilling, dramatic work like in United 93 or the first two or the second and third Bourne films, where he really got noticed. And I think the direction here is kind of like you mentioned. I'll take a step further. I think it's very sloppy. I think the script is atrocious. I think the performances are so reliant upon these tropes.
Hmm.
There's a moment in here that you're not supposed to laugh at, and I laughed and I did that like multiple times. Like there's a scene, I think I described it in, maybe I didn't describe it in the review, but because I didn't want to get into the spoilers of it all. But there's a scene where the dispatcher is like literally telling the parents, they got on the bus, but we haven't found the bus. And everyone's like, what do you mean you lost our kids? Who's driving the bus? And they want to, and this woman who's been like on McConaughey's ass the whole film, she's like, I would trust Kevin with my whole life that he would get those kids here safely. And they also have teacher Mary on there, and it was straight out of like a Mel Brooks movie where everyone went, oh thank God Mary's there, oh my God. And it
I
was
think I heard someone actually say, "Yay."
it wasn't me, let's just
Yeah,
say
no.
it was Jamie Lee actually. But it's so devoid of really you caring about any emotion. And then most of this stuff, like I mean, like America, like as you said,
Mhm.
I want to give credit to Sophia here, America Ferrera running like their weapons run with like a with bottles of water,
Oh yeah.
is
Yeah.
one of the funniest things I've seen this year. And again, it's not supposed to be intentionally funny, but it just feels like it, and it feels like CGI gobbledygook that's surrounding them. And then this is like in the book of that's about this and everything. This is a minor story within the grand scope of this fire. And
Hmm.
they decided to focus just on this bus with a bunch of annoying brats. And the problem is like, I don't know any of the kids. I don't know
Yeah.
really anything about any of when you're setting it with 25 people, I should probably get to know them. And they become really just screaming things in the background. And so it was a complete disaster. We even told one of our friends, your friend and my friend Bennett Prosser, who was there at the festival. We told him not to go see this film the next day, and he went anyway. And he was mad at us for it, and I think that that's fair. I think dads will watch it like yours on Apple Plus when it comes out at
My
the end of the
dad
month.
loves all Apple TV Plus programming except for Coda, which he hated.
I don't know if
But
he's gonna
any
like this.
series,
I don't
we'll
know.
see.
We'll
He
see.
might. It's possible.
You don't think he wouldn't fall asleep through this?
Oh, he would definitely fall
But
asleep.
the sound design is loud.
It is
It
loud,
is
but
fucking loud
I
in
don't
this
know if he
movie.
would stay engaged. I'll say that.
Speaking of things I was trying to stay engaged with and was getting mad as it was going on, was Rental Family. which is a
This is
film.
interesting. I skipped this because I wanted to see. I mean, this is one of those that I'll get to. Like it's going to come out and I'll get to it. I wanted to see Poetic License, Maud Apatow's directorial debut, which I
Which
actually loved.
I caught up with,
So,
and it was
yeah,
actually really good film.
yeah,
And Leslie Mann, very good. And
she's great. But so I'm
it,
glad I skipped this though,
yeah,
based
I'm
on your
glad you did.
word.
Yeah, it's everyone, every year a movie gets a pass. I feel like at these festivals, every year a movie gets a pass, and then you see it and you go, "What the fuck were we thinking? Like, why are we giving this a pass? Like, this shit doesn't need to be the middling film that gets into Best Picture." I kind of feel like we were like that a little bit with American Fiction. We like gave it a pass. I feel like I gave it a pass that year, and then it was like hanging around, and then it won an Oscar. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, no one's going to talk about that movie 2 years later. This is what that movie is for this year, is Rental Family. And I get people like Brendan Fraser. I get that people liked Beef and Akari's work on that. I think this movie is just visually just like looks like a Hulu movie rather than a direct to theaters movie. I think the script is so emotionally manipulative. Um, it doesn't allow you to organically build relationships with these characters. It wants to just feed you this emotion and wants you to cry and is demanding that you cry, and it's trying to tug heartstrings ineffectively and really just like in a way that I was as I was watching it, like there would be a scene where it feels like we're going to be genuine, and then it would just go into massive manipulative tropes for a family drama that we've seen 100 times over. Fraser's sleepwalking throughout this film. He's not he's better, I guess, here than the whale because it's not like a pretty annoying performance, but it is just one where it's like he's playing himself. He's not playing, he's playing the guy that quotes Moby Dick in the Oscars. He's not playing anyone remotely of value. So I just found the movie to be a complete waste of time. And I hope that this is not a movie that gets an audience award. It doesn't seem strong enough to get one because the word of mouth is like the most solid 3.5 star film. I did not give that. I gave it a 1.5 because I see through this movie. I know what this movie is. And yet I can't wait for it to win Best Picture because it's going to kill us all. I'm totally kidding. I don't even know if it's going to happen because it's
Mm.
text and it's below
I
the
was,
line. It's so
yeah.
standard that like it does feel like an Emmy movie. It doesn't feel like an Oscar movie. It feels like an
I
Emmy
mean,
movie.
but like you could say the same thing about Coda.
No, for sure.
Is it that type of contender where you could
No,
see
because
it?
like I can't
Yeah.
see anyone winning. I can't see the
Uh-huh.
screenplay winning because
Hmm.
at least with Coda, that was an adaptation and that was and people didn't see the original and they got really emotionally attached to that family. And I don't know. I didn't feel that in the room. And people
I
loved Coda, to be fair. There
That's
were
what I
people at
was
the time that
wondering. Like,
loved that movie.
is there that
there's not,
emotional attachment to the people?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. I think that the only attachment itself is because Brendan Fraser's in a new movie, which how fucking long can we continue to attach ourselves to that? And TIFF was the launching point for The Whale after Venice and really started its train there. And he had the tribute. He's not doing that this time. Like The Rock got the tribute this year. So
Hmm.
I don't see this movie. I see this movie going to regional festivals. People may be like liking it there. But when it comes to the Academy, like unless a bunch of films start falling off, I don't see it breaking through at this moment, but I could be wrong,
Okay.
and I could just be biased because I hated it and and didn't and thought it was crap. No, I shouldn't say hate. I just really strongly disliked it. That's a better way of saying it, because I saw exactly what this movie is, and I saw a lot of people just trying to give it that pass, and I'm like, you don't have to give something a pass just because you want to, like
Hmm.
because as I talked with people about it, both industry and non-industry, and non-critics, it was starting to fall apart for them as they really started talking about it. And I'm like, well, then why are you giving this 3.5 stars? So it was a little frustrating just from our colleagues and stuff out there in the world to see that. But yeah, I mean, like that's those were really the big contender. Was there anything else, Sophia, that you really think that like hit the wave of Toronto? Was there like
Well,
anything that you thought, or do you want to talk
I
about a little bit of some where we stand with the Oscars after this fest because it's
we
such a
can
huge
talk about
fest?
the Oscars, and I think this will actually dovetail into that. But a huge movie at TIFF was Hamnet.
Oh, that's
It played
right.
really
Well,
well at TIFF, just like Telluride, and I
that
think
is
that
true.
actually has a strong possibility of placing in the
Yeah,
audience award conversation.
I really do agree with you on that, and I think that as we are getting out of the first wave of film festivals, because we have a little bit of a week break before New York starts their month-long trek into showing films to everyone out there in Lincoln Center.
I
Um,
love the
I,
month-long trek.
I'll be a part of it. Sophia will be a part of it. We'll all be a part of it. But this first wave, this first initial late August, early September wave is complete. The movie that has emerged from this all unscathed, loved, beloved is Hamnet. And that
Hmm.
is, you're absolutely correct. It stands to reason that it is one of two contenders for the ultimate prize because it has a path. And that's the thing, Sophia, I wanted to talk to you about was paths
Hmm.
for these things. And as we start getting closer to really, New York will see a couple of films there that potentially that we're excited to see it, but I don't necessarily see a best picture path for it. I feel like we pretty much have everything out here. And so I know you've seen one battle after another, and we're not going to go into in depthly into the film,
I
but
won't
we
spoil anything.
no, but and I appreciate that, but I feel like based off of just our early predictions and just how what we
Hmm.
feel, and you now confirming that, it feels like we have at least two films with a path,
Hmm.
and really, and maybe three
Hmm.
with sentimental value being that third one potentially, but
Hmm.
I don't know to the extent of the late breaking praise narratives, all that being built in. It really does feel like we're about to head into a season where it is maybe our two favorite films of the year going up against each other in Hamnet in one battle after another, which is kind of crazy, which you haven't experienced in a long time, right? Like it's
No.
since Power of the Dog that you've had a
Mm-mm.
favorite in the thick of it in the hunt. So
Yeah, I mean, it's so the thing
I mean,
with
I know
one
you loved Oppie,
battle.
but it's different when
Well, I
it's
love
like
the
you're
Brutalist, and
yeah.
that was definitely in the hunt a bit. But one of the things that's really interesting about comparing one battle after another and sentimental value is that the films are totally different. But when you think about the path to picture, sentimental value's path to picture is international feature, original screenplay, and supporting actor. Now, one battle isn't adapted, but I'm going to tell you, I've been saying for months and months now that I think One Battle is our best picture winner. I think PTA is our best director winner. But Sean Penn poses quite the challenge and
hmm
threat to Stellan Skarsgård. And I think there is a very real possibility that he will win his third Oscar. So there's a chance that so there's a chance, right, that like if Stellan doesn't win, I don't think Sentimental can win picture because that's its biggest acting possibility, I think.
I was going to ask you
Um,
because it does. She is second. Renata is sort of a second place person
mhm.
at the moment, an actress, and she would have to go up
Yeah,
against
Jesse
Jesse fucking
Buckley,
Buckley,
who is
who is.
like, I think, gonna win everything straight up.
I think she's going to win
Um,
the trifecta. I really do think she's going to
oh,
win
she could.
I think she
Yeah.
could win the trifecta. I think she could sweep the season. She is honestly the best place for you to
Hmm.
above the line to
Yeah.
reward Hamnet. It's kind of
The
an undeniable performance.
Absolutely. And the thing with One Battle that I feel so strongly about, and I felt so strongly about for so long, is that this is the movie of the pack that is speaking to exactly where we are right now in a really fascinating new way.
Mm.
And, after seeing that, I only feel that way about it in an exponential way. And I feel like for me, One Battle is going to be the nomination leader
Yeah.
because I think Sinners will pick up a lot of nominations, but I don't feel as strongly about the performances
Yeah.
getting in as I do
Same with
about One Battle.
same with Frankenstein in terms of crafts, but
Exactly.
above the line, that's going to struggle. Yeah.
But this to me is one of those where I just look at it and I just think, how could you not embrace it? Now, I've said that about other PTA movies too, but this just feels different. And I think also why it feels different is that we were in this weird festival season where things just started falling away.
It doesn't,
Reception just
yeah.
wasn't that high. We had
Mhm.
Hamnet, of course, but I kept having this feeling like needling me that was like, well, PTA's coming. None of this matters anyway. PTA's coming.
That's a little
And
bit
that's
of just
kind
that.
of what's going on. A
It's a
little
little,
bit.
well, it's a little bit also of, that's a little bit of like us. I'm not, I am very strong in our predictions. We were very strong in our predictions. But that's also like, she's not wrong. Like, that's a little bit of like, yes, us knowing what this movie was going to be, hearing the things that we hear from sources that we're very strong with and very confident in, and sticking to it, and also wanting, I mean, there's a little bit of us wanting
Oh,
our
he's
guy
my
to
favorite director, of
yeah, it's our,
course.
our guy. We would love our guy to be in this conversation through and through. But it's different when like it was like Licorice Pizza a couple years ago where I was like, I just want him to get in and I think he will be. And I heard that was a pretty accessible film and he did get in. This is like, we're talking about him delivering the masterpiece from him for this decade, which is, and he's done this multiple times. This is Magnolia. This is Boogie Nights in the 90s. This is There Will Be Blood in the 2000s. This is Phantom Thread in the 2010s, or The Master, depending on who you talk to, or just both in general. And this is an even bigger step and above that, because I kept telling people, and Sophia and I agreed, you don't give Paul Thomas Anderson 130, 140, whatever $1 million it is for this budget if he doesn't have something special to deliver. This movie is
Hmm.
selling out left and right already on its special formats.
Hmm.
It's going to make some money, and it probably make more money than There Will Be Blood, which is the highest grossing film ever. And so therefore it starts engulfing the conversation because of the fact of how strong the film is. I have not seen a single negative response. There's been a couple of like,
Well, they're coming, don't worry.
and they're going to come because of the fact that they're just going
There
to
will be
come.
discourse.
Yeah, there's going to be negative discourse to it because of the fact that this praise has been so overwhelming from the get-go. And every film
Hmm.
that we've talked about in this Best Picture race this year has had that one way or another. Even Sinners had its
Hmm.
detractors. Even Sentimental Value has its detractors. Even
Hmm.
even Hamnet will have its detractors as well. But it's how does the season shape for it and narratives built. And I just think the divisiveness in our country continues to be the stronging case for why a
Hmm.
movie like this is going to stick
Yeah.
so well. I know you've seen it. I don't want to get too much more into it, but
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
I do want to say that Hamnet does have this strong contingent. It will, I think, play really well once the New York critics see it. That's why I'm kind of surprised it's not at NIF, because I think it would play really well there. And I think that LA could go for One Battle. Hamnet could be in New York's Best Picture winner, and we could have this little battle between the two of it. But I mean, we haven't seen much. I mean, we've seen a lot. There's not many things left coming out, Sophia,
Hmm.
that I could see even breaking through with these two, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless the silly people out there are correct and that they really are going to honor Wicked Part Two, which I doubt it, and I don't think Big Jim's third film is
Mm-mm.
going to do it, and I think it'll
No.
kind of get the same thing that A Way of Water has it. So we really are left with, and I don't think it'll be like Ellen McKay or Song Sung Blue or some of that crap. Like, I think it really is, we're seeing it shape in front of us, and it is going to be very fascinating once we hit New York, is that
Hmm.
Hamnet goes away for a little bit, and
Yeah.
this is when One Battle is really going to dominate the conversation over the next couple of weeks. And the
Yeah.
dominance of that conversation, good, bad, in the middle, whatever, we've had friends of ours. Karen Peterson is a great friend of ours and contributor to Awards Watch. She saw the film with you. Her letterbox review said it all. Sometimes you just watch a movie and you're like, yep, that thing's winning Best Picture. And it really makes everything else feel so obsolete, doesn't it?
It's hard
Which
to
it
even
makes
talk
scary
about
for a
this
PTF.
because I know but it is one of those films where like it's the only thing I can think about, and it's a very similar. I'm having a similar feeling with this movie that I have when I read like a masterpiece, a really great book, which is that I can't really pick up anything for a while after it. I just need to sit with it. And right now I'm like, what do I watch? I can't watch anything else right now. Like it is just one battle that's in my brain. And I also want to say too that this movie is, it's very visceral, it's very violent, but it's also really funny. The script is amazing, but he also, like all PTA movies, the ending is just brilliant and it has a sweetness to it. And that's what I was left with at the end. I was very, very moved and
Yeah.
felt I left the theater really on a tremendous high.
Yeah.
So even for a movie about our country right now and how divided it is and the horrors that are depicted in this movie, I still left the movie feeling positive. Like
Which
I
is
felt like,
crazy.
oh,
Yeah.
like there are people here who are making a difference and making things better.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw this because we're gonna wrap up on this.
Yes.
Which is, and we'll get to more Best Picture talk. We'll get into more actress talk, actor talk. We'll get into, I mean, we might get into director talk. I don't think we really need to anymore, because I think it's done. But, but I want to ask you about the TIFF Audience Award winner.
Uh-huh.
And I want to get your gauge on a prediction because time we're releasing this today. It's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's announced on Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
As when that's going to be announced. So we'll talk about the TIFF winner next week and if it's a significant film in the race and what that will mean. Last year's winner, just for context, was Life of Chuck, and that has done nothing. That
Mm-hmm.
will do nothing, and so that's very interesting. That that's a movie that could just come and go and do absolutely nothing in this race. But
Mm-hmm.
do you have a gauge as to what you think is going to win this usually very big predictive Oscar contending award that doesn't cross with the Academy at all, but does bleed into their taste and what they
Mm-hmm.
might, because this is where American Fiction, this is, or The Boy and the Heron, this is where like The Fablemans. Remember when that happened? That was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious, Sophia, like for yourself, like what you think it's going to be.
I think it is just going to be Hamnet. I
Mm.
think so. I feel like that's the one I did my part. That's what I voted for. But
I did not vote for it. Actually, I did not vote for anything.
okay.
I just was like, one, because I don't want to whip up my phone and do it, and two, I don't care. Like
It's so easy.
I know it is, but it's also like
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get
I
to a
think I'm
Hamnet screening, so I wasn't going to vote for it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that it's going to be Hamnet, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Rental Family, Wake Up Dead Man,
Mm.
or honestly, Roof Man, which we
Mm.
didn't talk about, which I saw with Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst, which played very, very well. So, but I'm gonna go with Hamnet.
Can I tell you a film that I think could be in like third place?
Uh-huh.
Played really well. It's the surprise of the festival. Nuremberg.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Nuremberg, which is a movie that could be in the 10 at the
Mm-hmm.
Oscars. I was shocked
Hmm.
because I told Eric and you that movie looks terrible. And this movie was really good. Its first screening at TIFF received a standing ovation. The PNI received a
Mm-hmm.
round of applause, which is very not it's that's very crazy for that to happen
Mm-hmm.
at a PNI. But yeah, this is the James Vanderbilt's film about the Nuremberg trials with Russell Crowe, Rami Malek, Michael Shannon, and Leo Woodall, and it's a 2.5 hour movie about that. It's pretty much a legal procedure. It moves, it flies, it has audience award written all over it. It has regional festival,
Mm.
old people are gonna love it vibes. I weirdly was surprised it wasn't at Telluride, honestly, because the old
I was
patrons would have
too.
loved that shit
Hmm.
out of it.
And Sony
Um,
Pictures
Sony Pictures
Classics. Yeah.
Classics, which has a bigger slate this year than they did last year.
Hmm.
And this one's their contender. I would also tell them to put Russell Crowe in supporting actor and not run him in lead because he could get a nomination for that. Plus the makeup and the script could easily get into the conversation for it. So that's like a 4 or 5 nomination haul for that movie. It will do really well at like Mill Valley, Middleburg, and if it plays at AFI, it'll do well there too. It's one our parents will love, and it's got a Rami Malek problem, but every movie that has Rami Malek has a Rami Malek problem, unless you're Oppenheimer, because it only puts him in there for a scene. But I think that I think the movie is really handsomely made, and I think it could sneak into the 3. I agree with you. I think Hamnet is the right one. I think No Other Choice is the other film that could easily sneak in there. I feel like I think of a Hamnet, No Other Choice, Nuremberg top 3 is kind of weird. But
You
last
gotta
year
make room for a silly one,
you
though.
got. I think Nuremberg's the silly one because it's like you
Okay.
didn't expect it, and there is like I mean like Russell Crowe in a fat suit essentially with the makeup and prosthetics, but also too like I don't think any really of the Midnight Madness films really hit.
Hmm.
I guess if there is one that does hit, it's Brian Fuller's film because people love Fuller and love his television work, and that's very much in the Flanagan mold
Mm.
of it. But I don't think it's going to be Smashing Machine. I don't, but someone did tell me this, and this is true. The screenings for Secret Agent were the public screenings, not were if they were packed with Brazilians. They could stack the deck,
Mobilize.
mobilize, yes, and that would, but then that would be a win on its belt that it continues to add.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
or also Sentimental Value is another film. It was early in the fest, but people love Joachim Trier. They love Worst Person in the World. They love Renata. They love
Hmm.
this film, and it is shown there as well too. So, those are, I think, the big contenders. I pray to God that it's not Rental Family, and we can put that one to bed. Sophia, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all of your reviews and written work that you've done over the last couple weeks?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim, Blue Sky at Sophia Sim. You can find my writing. I still have a few TIFF reviews coming. You can find reviews, interviews, and more at AwardsWatch.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find my reviews of Wake Up Dead Man. You can find my review of The Lost Bus. And then I had the capsule reviews of Good Fortune, which is a mid film, Fuse, which is a bad film, and Claire Denis' latest film, which is a mostly good film. It's an interesting film, in a review capsule. And you can find that up on awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we have the Awards Watch podcast. We're in the middle of our Ozu series. Check that out on Thursdays. iTunes 5 stars on Spotify as well. Sign up for the newsletter. It's the best place to get all our news, reviews, interviews, all this awards coverage, everything that's going on at the festivals right now. Sign up for the newsletter. It's the best way to get all that. Next week, or on the next episode next week, we will be previewing the New York Film Festival lineup. We will potentially get into some One Battle After Another discussion if by any chance I get to see this ahead of time. If not, we will hold. We will hold.
I'm trying to
I
hold.
know. How do you think I feel right now? I'm like
Yeah.
dying on the inside.
Yeah.
And so I need to see this movie. We will all be seeing this movie soon. And also, we will have the week of release on that Monday. We will be having a special episode of Director Watch, where myself, Jay Ledbetter, and Sophia Ciminello will be on to discuss in depth Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film. We discussed Anderson in a movie series a couple years ago, and we're so excited to have that as a main show episode for everybody. And I'm sure given that movie, there won't be any tangents, and it'll be a really civil and just down the middle discussion, and there won't be anything crazy that happens in that episode whatsoever between Jay, myself, and Sophia. None of that will happen. Also, want to give a shout out to everybody that came up to myself, Sophia, and everybody at TIFF, much like they did at over at Telluride. The love and support is something that we love to hear. It's not something that we always ask for because we're like, it always comes unexpectedly, but it was great to hear from so many people that have listened to the show, that have read the website. Continue to please do so, and we hope to make you proud along the way throughout this season. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all next time.